So, Jamie and Mrs. Amanda, thank you so much for meeting with me. I know that you had shared with your case manager that you recently had an argument, there was a conflict with you two, and that there were some threats of suicide that were made. So, what I want to do is I'm the clinician here, and I wanted to come out just to do a brief suicide assessment, just to get a little bit more information about what had kind of happened, what triggered you, and then our intention too is to go over, it's called a safety plan. So it's just to kind of talk about if you would ever have thoughts to hurt yourself again while on the program, what are some steps that we could take and you guys could take so that we don't follow through with those thoughts. Any questions before we get started? No. Okay. So I know that when I did the comprehensive assessment with you both about 3 weeks ago, you had mentioned that there was no family history of suicide in the past with anybody at all. Okay, and there were no like self-harm behaviors.
No.
Did you ever like cut yourself before?
No.
Or no? Okay. So what I want to do next is I'm going to ask you just a couple questions on how you've been feeling over the past 2 weeks, and they're just kind of yes or no questions. So. During the past 2 weeks, do you feel like you felt hopeless or that life is not worth living at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you had mentioned or told the case manager that that was something you were feeling during the argument with your mom. Okay. Did you ever feel like you have no control over your thoughts and behaviors? Is that something you've experienced the last 2 weeks?
No.
No? Okay. Felt afraid that you would get out of control and you want protection from yourself?
No.
Okay. Have you experienced a lack of interest or pleasure in doing things? Like things just don't seem fun for you anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Do you feel lately that you're tired or don't have a lot of energy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems a quick one, so that one you noticed. Okay. And do you feel like you've had trouble sleeping or sleeping too much? Yeah? What would you say? Would you say that you're sleeping too much? Is that the issue?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And are you noticing that, Mom, that she's sleeping a lot?
Yes, I have noticed that a bit.
Okay. Do you feel like you've had a poor appetite, like you don't feel hungry or you're losing weight, or the opposite is that you're eating a lot, like you're overeating?
Yeah, I'm not eating much at all.
Not eating much at all? Yeah, okay. In the last 2 weeks, have you ever felt like a failure or a disappointment to others?
Yeah, I feel like a disappointment when I get into fights with my mom.
Yeah. So that's something that really bothers you. Okay. In the last 2 weeks, have you felt isolated, like you feel like you're alone and it's just you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Do you ever feel, have you noticed in the last 2 weeks, like giving away important things, like things that you really value, like material things, things that you really like?
No.
No? Mom, you haven't noticed?
No, I haven't noticed anything.
Okay. Have you experienced in the last 2 weeks any recent loss? Like has anybody died in your family or friends or
No.
pets? No? Okay. Any school problems at all?
Yeah, I'm getting bad grades. And I know my mom's mad at me about that.
Okay. So that's been kind of a concern lately?
Yeah, I just know she has the potential to do much better than she is doing, and I've noticed that, she's not putting in the effort that she could.
So this is kind of newer, like she used to get good grades, but lately not so much.
Right. Well, probably since she started high school.
Okay. Okay. Any like unexplained where you were maybe in a depressed mood and all of a sudden you're feeling everything seems great and you've got this positive outlook on life?
No.
No. Okay. And then there's some other questions about kind of people that are involved in your life or interests that you might have. So I'm going to kind of ask you some questions about that. Do you feel like you have family or friends that you can rely on, that you could talk to if you needed to? Yeah. And who would they be?
My sister Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
and also I feel like I can talk to my grandma.
Your grandma and your sister. Okay. Do you feel connected to your school or your community? Like, do you feel like you have a close relationship teachers,
No.
neighbors? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Do you feel like you have a sense of, are you religious or spiritual that you really rely on, or really connected to your culture in any way?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Do you feel like you have a sense of purpose in life? Like, do you feel like you have life goals that you're kind of working towards? Do you feel like there's a reason why you're put on this earth?
Well, I guess I do want to become a nurse.
Yeah?
If that
Great.
counts.
So that's something that you are kind of striving for, is to become a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And do you feel like you have opportunities to experience positive feelings? Meaning, are you in any extracurricular activities, hobbies that you have?
Well, I'm good at writing.
Writing?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. You've noticed that, Mom? She's
She
really good.
does. She really likes to journal, and she does it often.
That's great. Okay. And just a couple more questions, and this is really related to that suicidal thoughts that you had. So I kind of have a couple questions about that. So in the last 2 weeks, have you had thoughts to end your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have a plan to follow through with those thoughts to kill yourself?
No.
No plan.
No.
Okay. You
No.
haven't noticed.
Noticed nothing, no. It was just in the verbiage that she used, talking about it, but I haven't noticed any actual plans or heard anything else about it.
Okay, so she said it during that argument, and that's what worried you, but no plan that you've noticed.
Now that
about
I've
it.
noticed, no.
Okay. Have you carried out any acts in anticipation of your death? And so what I mean by that is some people will they say put their affairs in order. So they might really make sure that they don't have any loose ends, that they have to follow up with things that, I know some clients have been they've cleaned their room very strategically and feel like things need to be, no. Okay. Do you have any access to carry out a suicidal act if you would have a plan to follow through? Do you feel like you have like guns that you would be available to, or medications or pills that would be easily accessible?
Yeah, I mean, no guns, but I know that my mom's depression medication is in the medicine cabinet.
Okay. So that would be something that you could easily get if you wanted to. Okay. And if you would have a plan to follow through with your thoughts, I know you said you don't right now, but if you would, do you feel like you would have somebody that would stop you? Like a loved one that would really stop you for that, or any religious beliefs that you wouldn't do that because of what you believe in?
I guess my sister Sarah and my grandma, both important to me.
And they would be people that you feel would stop you
Mhm.
from that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I really appreciate you sharing that information with me. And it sounds like there's no immediate plan to follow through with anything. Okay. And that I know that this argument had happened about 3 days ago
Mhm.
of when this happened, and you had informed your case manager about that as well. And what we're going to do is, I know that there isn't a plan to kind of follow through with that right now. But I would really like to go over, it's called a safety plan, just to kind of go over a little bit more detail about what would be some of your triggers of you feeling kind of suicidal, and then we'll kind of walk through what steps you could take so that you're not following through with those thoughts. Okay. So the first kind of question I want to ask you are, what are some triggers or warning signs that we could watch for when you notice that you're kind of having these suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts?
Well, when I'm being accused of doing something I didn't do,
Okay.
when I am being spoken to in an aggressive manner.
And when you say being accused of something you didn't do, anything in particular that would really kind of trigger you?
No, just generally, I don't like being accused of things I didn't do.
Yeah. I know that your caseworker had mentioned that the argument had started over some money that might have been taken.
Right.
Okay. And it would be safe to say that that's kind of what set you off in that
Yeah.
argument?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you also said being spoken to in an aggressive manner.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just in general, or is there someone in particular that really kind of sets you off?
I think it's in general. I don't like
Okay.
teachers talking to me like that. I don't like police. I don't like my mom.
Anyone?
Anybody.
Okay. Okay. So, have there been any strategies or things that you've done either in the past or that you have done to kind of help you cope with these things? So, if you are feeling suicidal, what would be some things you could do so that you don't follow through with that plan or those thoughts?
Listening to music.
Okay.
Writing.
Yeah.
Call my sister Sarah.
Okay.
We walk around the mall.
Anything else that you could think of that would be helpful for her?
I know giving her space.
Okay.
You know, you can tell when she's getting escalated and when she's throwing back those terms of wanting to harm herself. I know that's a trigger of giving her space and just letting her use her own coping skills at that time.
Okay, so for you, you know to kind of back off and
Mhm.
she needs kind of to be alone at
Right.
that time. Okay. So the next thing I kind of want to ask you is if you do have these thoughts of harming yourself or hurting yourself, what could you do to really make sure that you're not doing that and that you're feeling safe? What would be some actions that you could take?
I don't know.
Okay. If it's okay, I do have some suggestions that some have worked for other clients, and you let me know if any of these would fit for you. Just so you know, while you're on the program, I do offer individual and family counseling as the clinician here. And so some youth that have had the same kind of thoughts and feelings that you've had have found it helpful to kind of call me if they're ever having these feelings, and we can kind of talk through that. Would that be something you'd be willing to do, is to call me if you feel kind of feeling depressed or?
Yeah, I think I'd feel more comfortable talking to my caseworker because I see them every day.
Okay, so talking to your caseworker during those tracking visits would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay. I also have a suicide prevention hotline number, and it's a number that I give anyone that's kind of feeling the same way that you've been feeling. And I know that some have put that in a place that's really easily accessible, like if it's in your bedroom, on your door, or on the refrigerator, that if you would want to use that crisis line, that it would be something that you know what the number is and it's kind of right in front of you. Would that be something that you'd be willing to do?
Sure.
Okay. And what would you say would be the best place to put that? Would that be in your bedroom, on the fridge?
Yeah, probably in my bedroom.
In your bedroom?
Mhm.
Okay.
And if you wouldn't mind either, we put one on the fridge too.
Okay, so put both. Great. I know other youth have shared that when they're around other peers that may have access to things to, if they were feeling sad, to follow through with their plans, may it be peers they know that could easily be able to get a gun if they needed to, or medication. Some youth have shared that those would be some friends that they would avoid during those times of feeling kind of depressed.
I get that, yeah.
Okay, so that would be something that you'd be willing to do.
Mhm.
I also, just to make sure that everyone's kind of being safe and that we're not tempting you or putting you in situations that you would feel tempted to hurt yourself potentially or follow through with anything, when I pick up for group counseling, or when the case managers pick up for group counseling, we always kind of have you sit in the front seat. And I know with you being a female, sometimes it's nice to kind of not be with all the other male clients anyway. So would that be something you would be willing to do, to kind of sit in the front seat with me and
Yeah.
hang out? Great. Well, I think these are some great action steps that you're willing to take. The next kind of thing that we go over, any action steps that any family member or parent would be willing to take to continue to make sure that their environment's safe. So with that being said, is there anything that you feel like you could do to make sure that she doesn't follow through with those thoughts, or that you keep kind of her environment safe?
I mean, just hearing her say that she has access to my medication prompts me to think about moving it.
Okay.
So maybe she doesn't know where that would be.
So you would remove the pills from the bathroom and put them somewhere she doesn't know?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else that you feel could play an active role in kind of helping things be safe?
You know, maybe getting her grandma and sister more involved in knowing what's going on, and so they could be aware of what to look for.
Because I know she had mentioned that someone that you can really rely on. Can you think of a time frame or how often you would maybe want them to kind of check in with her? Or that you would want them to kind of check in with you?
Once a week, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that's possible.
So grandma and sister would come kind of check in once a week?
Sure.
Great. Anything else you can think of, Mom?
Unless you have any suggestions, not that.
Yeah. You know, sometimes, and I know that she doesn't have any diagnoses, like mental health diagnoses, and I know that even in the assessment you had mentioned sometimes you were kind of feeling depressed a little bit, and you also mentioned too, since last 4 months starting high school,
Mhm.
something you feel is her mood's kind of declined.
Right.
So sometimes what we'll do is we'll offer to see if there's like a psychological evaluation where she would go in and meet with a doctor, and they just kind of ask you more details about kind of how you're feeling, just to see if there's anything else that could be helpful to kind of work through some of these concerns. Would that be something that you feel could be helpful, is to get like a psychological evaluation?
I think it could be. I
Okay.
think we could look into scheduling one of those.
Okay. So that's something that you would probably take care of, try to set
Sure.
up that for her.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then the last thing I kind of want to go over are what are some action steps that we would be willing to take as Southwest Key staff, or that you need from us. And I know I mentioned you guys were both really kind of open to that suicide hotline prevention number, so that would for sure be something that we can give you, is make sure that we have that number. We also have, I don't know if you've ever heard of the MUT team. It's this local urgent treatment team. And so that's just based here right in Milwaukee, and they provide crisis intervention as needed if by chance you were kind of feeling suicidal and you needed even some more extra support. Would that also be a number you'd like to have?
Yes.
Okay, and so I'll make sure to get that to you as well. And if you're okay with this, Jamie, I know that you said you seem really open to talking to me and to your case manager when she comes visits, that one of the things that we'll also do is when we see you is to kind of remind you of those prevention strategies and coping skills that you said that you'd be willing to take when kind of feeling that way. So if we notice that you might be more in a depressed mood, or you're feeling triggered by, being spoken to in an aggressive manner, being accused of doing something you didn't do, that we might really, help remind you to listen to the music, writing in your journal, calling your sister, or walking around the mall. So that might be something that we'll also do too, is remind you of those skills. Again, I do offer individual and family counseling as well, but if it's something, I know that we're very short term. But what I also could do is provide some counseling services at outside agencies, that once you're off the program, that you could be set up with some of these services if you find that helpful. And just, I know that we went over the intake a couple weeks ago when you first came on, but that we do offer crisis intervention. We are available 24 hours, 7 days a week, so if you ever did need anyone to talk to, that you could always call us at any time as well. And then what I'll also do too is I'll just kind of keep in touch with your HSW or your PO to see if they can also set up these services like the psych eval and the counseling services, so that everyone's kind of on the same page once you're off our program. Any questions or anything else you'd like to kind of add to this safety plan?
No.
I think these are some really great steps. Again, I really appreciate you kind of sharing this with me. And if it's okay with both of you, I'd love to come back in about 30 days just to kind of review this, to see where you're at. If this seems great, we'll kind of just continue to monitor that. Or if some suicidal feelings are kind of coming up, or you feel like it's getting worse, we can always kind of revamp this and see if there's anything different that we need to kind of look at.
Okay.
Well, I really appreciate you both, and we'll see each other soon. Thanks.
Thank you.